and our guest this week, Tanner Ehmke, who is the manager of CoBank's Knowledge Exchange Division. And in this segment, we're going to talk about a paper that was out recently dealing with hemp. And it seems like that that is kind of the new crop that everybody's trying to figure out. Will it work on their operation, and how can we make money on it?
That is definitely the key. Everybody wants to know the answer to that. How do you make money at hemp? And our economist, Carpenter, recently came out with her industrial hemp outlook paper, and it's a mixed bag. I mean, as is the case with any market, there's no guarantee. And hemp is new, so it's going to attract a lot of attention for sure, especially in a time when so many other commodities are not making money. So it's going to attract some attention from farmers. Is this an opportunity where I can diversify out of other commodities like corn, wheat, soybeans, or sorghum that aren't really cash flowing? Maybe this might be an opportunity. It may very well be if you have a buyer for the hemp. And that's one thing that we encountered in our research that Crystal found out, is that because of the regulatory framework, it's very uncertain at this time. Now, USDA has come out with some new regulations on it, and that's been helpful, but we still need a national plan, really, to create some consistency in interstate commerce. The FDA needs to come out with more research and guidelines to create those swimming lanes, so to speak, for CBD oil. The CBD, what are the guidelines and regulations for medicinal use or for supplement use? That has to be defined by FDA, and before they can come out with those regulations, they need to have the science to support it. That requires more time, and so it will be over a lengthy period, we think, before we really see this industry where investment feels comfortable to grow that industry. Mm-hmm. And so when you've got all of these regulatory uncertainties, it's also in the banking sector. Right. How do banks handle this? Investors are fearful of putting their money, say, into a processing facility. And so because you end up getting a bottleneck in processing, that limits the market for farmers. They got to have a buyer, right? So because of that bottleneck in processing, farmers are limited on where they can take hemp, and that's going to constrain really the growth of that sector.
It sounds like it's almost every other commodity. You got to have a processor or a buyer. So what about the long term? I mean, is this a blip as we get some of these growing pains, and then did she have a chance to look at maybe a long-range projection? Is this something that maybe will be a niche crop in certain areas, especially where it's growing the best, or will it be simply a matter of location for those processors?
Well, it's absolutely a matter of location, and long term, there's always going to be opportunity. We got to keep in mind this is an emerging market, and you're always going to have these hiccups in a new market. And so, the long-term view is that eventually a lot of these regulatory issues will be worked out, and investment will flow into that sector, and those processors will get the capital to expand. And one of the areas where we think we're going to see a lot of expansion is really in the Pacific Northwest area. They're experienced with growing hops.
Sure.
Other oil leaves like spearmint or mint. They have the facilities, they have the experience on processing those plants, and so it'd be a natural fit to include hemp. And so if there was one place where there would be natural growth, it would be in those areas, really in the Pacific Northwest, where there's hops.
Wow. Fascinating stuff. Tanner, always good to catch up with you.
Thanks, Ken.
Tanner Ehmke, by the way, a native Kansan. He is the director of CoBank's Knowledge Exchange Division. He's been our guest. Stay with us. We'll have more after this break.